going on, guys? I'm Alex Hunter, this is HP Builds, and today we are in the shop working on the Mustang, getting ready to do some autocross at NMRA Holly Ford Festival here in just a few days. And while I was here, I wanted to go ahead and add something a little special to this car, because not only are we doing autocross, we are also putting this car in the burnout competition. Now, I've went ahead, got a lot of the legwork done, jumping back and forth from the parts house, trying to get different brake lines and the fittings we needed to go from the line lock system to the master cylinder and from the line lock system to the rear brakes, which was pretty time consuming, I'm not gonna lie. It has 2 unions causing it to be 4 brake lines just to add this line lock system in. I also went ahead, installed it in the car, got all that kind of started. That way all we have to do today, bleed the brakes, run the hot and ground and the switch for it, and then we go test, which I know everyone is looking forward to. All right, so when it came to choosing a place to put this solenoid in, I chose right here at the base of the strut tower because it leaves me with a ton of room to work. All I've got to do is take the air cleaner out, and I have an absolute ton of room. On top of that, I got pretty lucky. There's actually 2 holes already put in the strut tower that this bracket goes to perfectly. So all I did was I clocked this, where this was relatively easy to get into without getting into some lines or without getting into a bracket up here. And obviously my bending isn't too great. This is my first brake line I've ever bent. And then we come up to the master cylinder with a union down there and then go straight into the master cylinder. So this line was relatively easy, and so was the one going to the back. So as you can see, it comes right below this line here and runs down the unirail and then comes out right in the back there. There's a nice little hole that the factory line comes out of, and we'll jump into the wheel well and show how I have that one set up. All right, so once you get the inner fender liner out, there is a ton of room in here to work. Right here, this is the factory brake line going to the rear, and this union is all you have to connect to. Now, this union is factory to the car. Don't ask me why Ford decided to put that there, because they used a different fitting up at the master cylinder than a fitting here. Really confusing, but it is what it is. So all we've got is right here. This is where we mounted the solenoid inside the engine bay. As you can see, ton of room in here as well. If you ever need to take it out, really quick, 2 bolts. Brake line comes down right here, elbows here, and I obviously had to get rid of some length there. These lines are obviously not made for this car, they're just universal. So had to lose a few inches right there as well and got it into here. So now that everything is set up, all we have to do is bleed the brakes and then put the tires back on and get this thing outside so we can go test. So without talking too much more, let's go ahead, get this thing done, get the wires ran, get the inside done. As you can see, we've already got a lot of the legwork done here. That way we can get moving, because someone wants to go do a burnout, and that someone just happens to be me. Alrighty, so we've got all the brakes bled. Back tires have been swapped over to the burnout tires. Looks a little funny, but it'll do for a smoke show. And now all we have left to do is to take the hot and ground the ground somewhere in here, and take the hot, run it back through, go under the dash, then come into these switches, and I don't know, that's gonna be a few minutes here, so it'll probably be dark by the next time you see me, but without talking too much more, let's get to it. All right, so after killing a few hours trying to debug this thing, we've got all the wiring done. Everything works like it's supposed to, kinda. So when she is off the brake, go ahead and turn the car on, babe, and put it in neutral. All right, let off the brake. No brakes, this thing spins like it should. No big deal. Then she turns the line lock on. Tire still spins, no big deal. As soon as she pushes the brakes, go ahead, babe, hit the brakes. As soon as she turns on the brakes, it gets seized. Now here's the interesting part. Go ahead and let off the brake. Line lock is still on. And we got nothing. No spinning. So here's what I'm thinking. Go ahead and kill the line lock, babe. What I am thinking is we have what they are calling the inlet and the outlet. We need to flip them. Reason I feel that way is while she's on the brake, fluid is still able to travel into the rear brakes, but it doesn't allow it to come back out. So if we flip this, you're going to have fluid not able to go that direction, but will be able to come this direction. So it's not a true valve closing off. It's more like a gate that's allowing to open if there's pressure on the side that there's not supposed to be pressure. So I think their instructions have us flipped, and I guess we're gonna have to take this off, flip this, go back to bleeding the brakes, and come back and see what we got. So be a second for you guys, maybe a hour or two for me. See you in a second. All right, guys, so now it is the next morning, and now we are ready to test. So we're gonna go to Mexico and go see what we can get done. All right, guys, now that we're out here, all we have to do is let your foot off the brake, engage the line lock, put your foot back on the brake. The only thing you have operating right now is the front brakes. So without further ado, let's stomp this thing and send these tires to the moon. So that clearly works super well. I'm able to go through all the gears I want and have no problem. This is going to be an easy burnout competition for us. So now all we got to do, get back to the house, get this thing washed, get the trailer washed, get the car, get the truck washed, and get everything packed up and get up there to NMRA so we can send the other set of tires to the moon, but for about a minute worth of that right there. So we will see you guys in a few days when we get up there and get to sending some tires.